They know highlight real brothers and sisters. Boots still on, new war, same fight, just a different song. We're not chasing the fame, we're just calling the game. Got a mission, got a mic, and we're ready to strike. With the tip of the spear, cutting through the noise. Standing side by side with the battle-hardened boys. Raising hell, telling truth, we got nothing to fear. This is tip of the spear, the veterans Roundtable is here. This ain't a show, it's a war room. It's the sound of warriors taking back the narrative. One voice, one mission, we've earned this mic. Now listen, we're the tip of the spear, cutting through the lies with the strength of the fallen and fire in our eyes. From the barracks to the booth, we stand loud and clear. This is tip of the spear, the revolution is here. Right check, battle cry. We speak, they can't deny. This is our time, our year. Tip of the spear, we're here. Veterans Roundtable is here.
Welcome everybody to Tip of the Spear Veterans Roundtable. How is everybody doing? Let's do a roundtable. Let's see. Gene Campbell, how are you, sir? You're new to the panel.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, man. Honored to be here with you guys. We are doing good. We staying busier than a one-armed paper hanger these days with running around the country with Romans Warrior Foundation and doing the stuff we do around here in Colorado with the TPOs. So we're just happy to get a little mic time here, man. Get things calmed down a little bit.
Yeah. Gunny, how are you, sir?
Still recovering from Texas. What a great trip that was, down there doing some bow fishing, getting some nasty gar and carp out of the water. So the bass and everything else can thrive like they should be.
Heck yeah. Miss Carol Lee, how are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited and happy to be here today.
Awesome. Miss Pippa, how are you?
Always well and always lovely to be here. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Mr. Rich, how are you, sir?
Having a nice air assault day. Doing great.
Nice. Sean, how are you, sir? You're new to the panel as well.
Well, I had to come where all the cool kids were, like I said before. And just for Rich, I'm going to give him the same greeting I gave everybody at Fort Campbell, and that was leg.
Awesome. God Freeman, how are you, sir?
Well, I don't have any X's in Texas that I know about, so that's pretty good.
Awesome. So it's been, a month since we all got together last. What has transpired over the last month that anybody wants to talk about? I know one thing I want to talk about, and that's the uptick in hoaxes on college campuses and schools with like different type of bomb threats and school shootings and stuff like that. And then there was one actually that happened today up in Minnesota today. What do you guys think about the uptick in those? What do you think is causing?
I think the uptick is part of a generation. How do we get out of class the first week of school? Calling a threat, calling a SWAT attack, and cause a large police presence on campus and no classes for a day or two. What I feel about Minnesota, that's horrible. 2 little kids were killed while praying in church. And then the fella killed himself. And so he didn't get to face justice by 12 men. 12 of his peers were multiple guns from police.
Yeah, I heard about that today. I was at on my first job, and my buddy came over and he goes, "Hey, did you hear about the shooting today?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Yeah, it's a school shooting up in Minnesota, middle school or elementary school." He didn't know for sure. And he's like, "Yeah, it's 20." I think he said 20 at the time. I think it's 17, right? I think is the number they say it now, 17.
I think I thought it was 19 and 2 had passed.
So
It was 17, but it was originally like 19 people, but then 2 children had passed. So it brought it down to 17 others.
Which is scary for me because my daughter's a freshman at EKU, and there's bomb threats going, school shootings, bomb threats going all over the country. And then today, you got the school shooting up in Minnesota. Well, my niece goes to Shelby County High School, and there was a bomb threat called in there, and they were on lockdown for a couple hours. So it hits home. Here we are. I'm in friggin' Mount Washington, Kentucky. I'm an hour and 40 minutes from EKU Richmond up there. Gunny's closer than I am, and it's just like, what do you do in a situation like that? Here I am. I know me. I would be getting in my truck and be doing friggin' 120 mile an hour to get to my daughter just to make sure she's safe. So it's crazy.
I think there needs to be some more accountability for these people. I mean, they may be teenagers, or young kids, but there's so many of these challenges that get put on social media, and to them it's nothing more than playing Pokemon Go, right? They follow the leader. So I think there needs to be some harsher penalties.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I've had that exact conversation with my son who's 20 in college. Their generation hasn't experienced consequences for their actions. Those protests that happened on campus last year and how the students did or didn't deal with it, and things like that. So, I tell him every day he goes to school, make sure your head's on a swivel, looking around, seeing what's going on. You don't need to, you might want to keep some of your comments to yourself because he's a little bullheaded like his father. So he has some opinions, So
yeah,
these days you can't just have a conversation. You can't disagree and still have a civil conversation, which is really sad.
Right.
The shooting today, my heart and prayers go out to the families. I can only imagine. I mean, dealing with that is just life changing. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he even managed to do what he did. And I mean, to hear what he had with him, a pistol, a shotgun, and a rifle. And, but from the sounds of it, it had been planned out for a while too, because apparently they found a manifesto in his car or somewhere. So.
Well, see, all right, here's me. My daughters both know how to shoot, and they're comfortable around weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have access to it at all. They're locked up. They can't get to them unless I open, the safe for them to get to them. So me as a parent, that's the way I'm going to, that's the way I'm going to be with my, my weapons. And I think other parents out there, responsibility of the weapon, keeping the weapon safe and out of the hands of children and possibly young adults. I think that should be what needs that. But how do we control that? You know what I'm saying?
I think this generation, unfortunately, which I hate grouping people because it's not the whole generation, obviously, but there have been more studies on this generation that indicate the highest mental depression, mental issues in that younger generation. And a lot of it stems, now again, this is just strictly my opinion, so please don't, put me to a wall, but I think COVID really made an impact. I mean, the kids became a lot lazier. They stopped thinking for themselves. They didn't have to do.
I think it's before that.
I think so too. But I think COVID was a catalyst that really just kind of put that last.
It's that everybody gets a trophy, right?
Well, yeah.
There's
We
no
stopped spanking our
disappointment.
kids.
Yeah.
That too. There's no disappointment at those younger ages anymore. Because even if you finish last, you're still getting the same trophy that the people that they get first is. Right. And then the social media, all these keyboard warriors thinking they're tough, and then they get in front of somebody and they find out they're not. Yeah. So what do? They turn to a weapon. They increase the violence.
They've actually.
Go ahead, Gene.
I was just going to say they've started to go down that rabbit hole and start getting real data back from the social media area. And if you guys have heard the term, the hockey stick curve, they tie it directly to And you can see about the time social media got crazy, you see an increase in that demographic of 13 to 32, increase in depression, anxiety. You see an increase in self-worth being degraded now through this, and it literally ties directly to that timeline. I mean, we all know it. I'm seeing more and more kids out there that are looking pasty as hell because they haven't seen sunlight in the last 5 years, and somehow it's it keeps getting slipped over, and that's really where this boils down to, how this gets. I mean, at some point mental health has to come into play, and we got to start recognizing it in these kids and get them the help they need, before it gets ugly.
Yeah, I have to say, though, I have been seeing on social media of all places that several schools, they have recognized issues with having cell phones in the classroom. And I've seen one where, I mean, they're actually taking this pouch, and that it gets locked, that they have to put their phone in it at the beginning of the day. It gets locked and they can't open it till they get back out of class and set it. It's like some of those magnetic closures that you would find in a department store that has like a tag on it, and you have to set it on there to pull it apart. And I think that's a great step. Now, if it could just be implemented nationwide, it would be a really big start. Then they're forced to have to engage, because I can tell you that this generation that we're talking about, they don't know how to communicate with one another face to face. Like, I'm telling you, they won't pick up a phone and call anybody. It will be a text where they don't even do
generation. I've got guys my age and older than me don't call text.
Really? Oh,
I'm
my
like,
God.
Are you friggin' kidding me?
I told my
What do you mean
20-year-old to
text?
call somebody, and he looked at me crazy. I'm like, that thing you play games on? That's a phone.
It actually makes phone calls.
But
Yeah,
I
it's
think
ridiculous.
there's, to me, I refer, it's multiple generations to me, because I always call it the GTA generation, the Grand Theft Auto generation. Is all these, we talk about isolation. Most of us have had that conversation right now. Veterans die because of isolation.
Right.
Same thing's happening with these kids. But then you throw in these video games and stuff like that, where and I use GTA as an example. It obviously isn't the only one out there, but you can have sex with a prostitute, then kill her, and then you can kill people, steal cars, and they're playing this and living this, and then they're desensitized to it, and they think that they can go do that in real life. And some of these kids in the long run are really going to find out how difficult it is to live after you've pulled that trigger. And dealing with the psychological impacts and things like that. Because to me, I just think they're desensitized to it, and they think they can just go do it, and there's not going to be any consequences.
They also get a lot of talking to, because when they're playing video games, most of the time they're on a Discord, which is kind of like it's a chat group, but it's audio, right? So they can talk back and forth.
Right.
And I ran into this with one of my kids, right, where they're talking about stuff, and he's mad at me for grounding him or whatever, and they're telling him to leave the house, to run away, stuff like that. So they're, and you don't even know who they're talking to. Some of these people are way older, and you've got these impressionable young kids, and they think, well, that's an adult who's telling me to do whatever, and I should just go do that.
I think there's
It's not even the social media. It's the friend group, period. So my nieces, neither of them are active on social media at all. They are heavily involved in the church. And the oldest one had a boyfriend. My sister-in-law asked the oldest one, hey, can you go grab my phone real quick? And the boyfriend has gotten her head so much that she turned to her mom and said, I'm not your slave. You're not getting free labor out of me. Go get your own phone.
Well, let's see what
And I'm like,
this-
are you friggin' kidding me?
Yeah.
And it's been to the point where the boyfriend's been like, just leave. You're 18, you're 19, just leave. I mean, hello. It's not just the social media. It's the friend group, period.
That's when the college fund turns into a boat fund.
Yeah.
So, Miss Pippa, what were you going to say?
So my reflection on all of this is if me, no matter what age you are, there is a perpetual struggle between autonomy and connection. And we all want to do what we want to do. We also need connection. And when you get that balance wrong, and it's more obvious in the younger generation because they grew up with what we didn't have, this social media. I mean, I'm so grateful I didn't have computers and social media growing up. Like,
Yes,
it's a real privilege, I think, now to have that.
I never would have seen Gunny.
When you have this kind of thing of like, you know, when all your friends are online, that's your connection. But they're telling you to be autonomous, and you have this complete disconnect between the real world and how things exist in this online world. And so that leads to this misconception of, you know, like you said, you can go out into the world and think you're really hardcore, and then piss your pants the first time someone confronts you. That leaves you feeling very unempowered, very fragile, very weak. And hey, I can access weapons. Let's go do that. And now I feel like a big, strong person. But it's always that struggle between autonomy and connection and trying to find that balance.
Well, in the real world, their thinking is Facebook, right? And Twitter and Instagram and all of that. That is not the real world. That is not somebody right there in front of you, and they don't recognize that.
Yeah.
And
that's
also,
their real world.
And the social media owners don't allow their children to use social media, is what I've heard, whether that's true or not. But it wouldn't surprise me because they know exactly what they're doing with the product that they're putting out there.
Yeah.
It's poison.
I mean, we've all seen the videos of people in the airport or on a plane, and they're like, "Do you know how many followers I have?" No, and I don't care. Act like a normal human being, you know, act cordial, you know, be respectful. No one cares about how many followers you have, other than you. You're the only one.
You know, too many people in this, and leave it to me to redneck it up, but you know, it just goes back to the not growing up in a time of talk and get hit. You know what I mean? We all can think what we want to think of somebody, but back in, at least when I was a kid, you thought twice. It's like, all right, if I say this to dude or about dude, it's going to get back to him, you know, and you had to reconcile that in your head going, all right, I'm cool with that. I guess I'll deal with it. Or yeah, no, I don't want to deal with that.
I got in fights in high school. I got in fights in the Marine Corps. I got in fights with my roommates in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Same.
The kids nowadays, they treat a fist fight like it's some sort of domestic terrorism, and that's just ridiculous. You know, at some point, you got to work this stuff out.
There's a whole list of things that can be put into the problem with this. Social media, it's the devil. It can be awesome or it could be the devil. But these kids today, when we were kids, just like you were saying there, Gene, if you had a problem in school, you settled it in school. You didn't bring it home. You didn't bring the bully home with you. Now the kids bring the bully home with them, and it's in their face because they don't want to miss something. So they're going to keep getting bullied for 24 hours a day, and that gets in their head. And then what do? Oh, I seen this thing like Sean said on Grand Theft Auto. I can go in there and just take one of Dad's weapons and beat the crap out of this kid in school, and I'll be okay because I can just respawn and I'll be okay. I won't be in jail. But no, then reality hits you, and your mom and dad are not picking you up with the clink, or you're dead because you don't know what you're doing in life. And you got to get at it. You can't go to a restaurant right now and see a family that's not all looking at a piece of a computer or a tablet. The whole family does not talk to each other. They're actually texting to each other what they want for dinner. And it just
We were on a cruise back in March. The media package, the social media package, the internet package is not cheap by any means. The 3-year-old had full access to whatever she wanted to watch because it was keeping her quiet on the cruise.
Yeah.
You know?
One of the things that just kind of popped into my head, and of course, you know, are the immunizations, you know, with the talk that, you know, some of those, since they really started pushing immunizations back in the 80s or late 80s, 90s, I guess, where, you know, it's caused more autism, things of that nature. What kind of imbalance could those also cause for kids? And is that also even a factor?
Apparently it's caused peanut allergies because that's rampant everywhere now.
And gluten.
but I mean, really, so chemically, it could actually be doing some damage as well, depending upon what they are. Because
Well, how
back in the day, they used to, anytime that there was a new vaccine, they would go through years of testing, and so
Yeah,
like
they
my
give it to all of us in the military. Hey, let's see
it
what
would
this
be
does
my
to you.
like my great grandfather. He and oh, what's his name? The hospital's named after him. The big military hospital.
Walter Reed.
Walter Reed. He and Walter Reed came up with the immunization for, I believe it was yellow fever. And, so, but they tested all of that first. And even back with the Spanish flu, if there was, I think there was like 19 or some people died from the vaccine, and they stopped because it was, and here it's like, no, just keep going. It's all money, right? That's all it's about. So it's not, they don't care what it's doing to us. They care what it's doing to their pocket.
I'm going to have a slightly opposing view on that one, because I do believe
that's okay.
in the power of vaccines.
I believe in some too. I don't necessarily agree with all of them, but
which is fair. I think the thing about vaccines, though, is nothing is 100%. And so I think we are more aware of when a vaccine doesn't work now than previously. And I think we've got I completely agree from that point of view. But if you look at polio and yellow fever, like you say, these are so rare in the Western world anyway. Polio's coming back, and even measles, mumps, and rubella, they have massively declined. And now you're seeing this increase again because people aren't taking the vaccine. Now, but I think, to your point, like, look at the coronavirus vaccine, that felt very rushed, but it was built on the backs of similar strands of virus that had previously been tested. But again, this information perhaps isn't widely known and understood, and how much data was collected beforehand to say what are the side effects. But I don't believe that vaccines cause autism. I think there's enough science that says that that's not true. But I do believe that vaccines can have other side effects that aren't properly recorded and can affect our well-being. And when you're throwing it into the mix of everything else, I completely agree that one more factor in how we can put people off balance mentally and physically in some cases.
I would be interested, though, to see a military study on how many military children are born with some sort of defect or autism or what have you from those cocktails we get in basic training, as well as all of the different deployments we go on. Because I know tons of soldiers that have kids with some sort of thing, and maybe it's just pure coincidence, right? But for me, the problem with the COVID vaccine is our politicians failed us and made it a political issue. They didn't give a damn about the welfare of the people. They were only concerned about turning it into an issue to get elected. And that's where the whole thing went south, in my opinion. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, I don't really care at this point. But
it's never been political. I agree with that.
It's
and they lied about it. So my son brought home, when he came home, he had his medical information because he was medically discharged because of an adverse reaction to the COVID shot. And he came home with the form that they were required to sign and for the COVID shot. It said right on there in black and white, they typed it up and said that this COVID vaccine was 100% safe. It was FDA approved. I mean, all of this is in black and white, their information. And they were all required to sign this, and come to find out, guess what? Moderna, which is the one that they were required to take, was not, none of them were FDA approved at that time. So that was incorrect. And it wasn't 100% safe. And my mind goes to the fact that they did not, for those who had adverse reactions to the COVID shot, as far as the military goes, did not probably send that information on to where it was supposed to go. They just put them in a medical and dealt with it, or what have you.
I talked to a Navy guy the other day. He was in when Gunny and I were in, and we got the anthrax shot, or the whole thing. Or Gunny might not. I did.
I was on recruiting duty. They didn't give it to us.
So I got the anthrax, and he also got the anthrax at the same time that we were getting the anthrax. Well, come to find out, the shot that he got was a bad batch. Well, now he has MS, and now that's linked to the anthrax shot that he got back then, the series that we got. I think we got 3 or 4 shots that we had to get of the anthrax back.
How many times did you restart the series?
I only did it once, but now we had what 1, 2. I want to say 4 shots total over a course of like 60 days. That to build, I guess, immunity to the anthrax or whatever. I'm not really sure, but they're like, hey, you got to get this. So, being a young jarhead, but now to find, here 30 years later, somebody developed MS from getting the shot. It's just, it's crazy that, that everybody's like, oh, it's safe, but yet you can't say that for everybody because you don't know how people's bodies are going to react.
As safe as Camp Lejeune water.
Right.
Yeah, and back to Sean's point, they're giving us all these meds, all these vaccines, immunizations, and all this, but you don't know how they're going to counteract with each other once it gets inside the human body. Again, everybody's different.
And you are right, the military have a higher proportion of being a guinea pig. Even the UK, we stopped after the Cold War. I think we stopped after the Cold War. But before one of my friends got deployed to Afghanistan, her vaccines weren't up to date. So they gave them all on the same day and she was sick afterwards. Whereas I only had 1 out of date. So I only got the 1 and I was fine. I mean, for sure, your body's going to have a bad reaction to being given everything in one go. And things like nerve agents, well, we know that nerve agents are bad for you in any form. So it stands to reason that vaccines against them will also be equally unpleasant, particularly if applied en masse to, with everything else. So I do agree that the military, the US probably has a higher percentage because you've got a higher military than we have. So you are more likely to see these kind of things come out than anyone else will, most likely.
Bricken just says the flu myths, don't forget that one, spinal infection. So, yeah, when I go to the doctor, whether it's the VA or my local doctor, my primary, they're like, "What do you want to get the flu shot?" I'm like, "No, I never get it. I don't ever get it." They still ask me, and I'm like, "I don't get it. I don't get that. I don't." They're like, "Well, do you want any COVID boosters?" I'm like, "No, I don't want that shit either." It's just like, if I don't need it, I don't. Yeah, I'm not getting it.
The flu isn't an active right thing. So they're actually injecting the flu into you with that friggin' mist or the shot or whatever, just to boost your immunity for what the next year's strain might be.
Right.
But it's only like 30% right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still an active, virus that they're injecting into you. So that's the only time I would get sick when I was in the Marine Corps, is taking the flu shot. And then after I get out, I'm like, nope, I don't have to do it anymore. Nope, not doing it.
They'd always give
Not
it to
at
us
all.
Thanksgiving. So
right before Thanksgiving or just before you go on Christmas leave.
That's horrible.
Yep.
Every time.
Yeah, every time.
But
So
they want you to take your leave sick.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
I'm going to steer this conversation a little bit different.
Right.
So here's an article from BBC News. German cabinet backed voluntary military service, opening door to conscription. So this was 6 hours ago. Germany's cabinet has passed a draft bill which will introduce voluntary military service. The bill could also lead to conscription if more troops are needed. So I'm assuming that in Germany you had to serve in the military, and now they're saying that you can do it voluntarily. What are you guys' take on that? So I'm gonna give you mine. I think here in America, I think everybody should serve at least 2 years in the military right out of high school. That's my personal. There's a lot of people that don't agree with that, but that's mine. It's either military service or go straight into college or trade school. That's the way I think that should be.
Well, there's several countries that have that mandatory requirement, and it may work for them, it may not. I think I think part of what makes our military great is being an all volunteer service. And I think requiring people to come in, you'll see a lot of impacts like you had with the draft for Vietnam, where you get people who just don't want to be there and they're going to be nothing but a pain in the ass the entire time. And, it's just, one of those things that I don't know that it would work out very well. But I will say in the same breath that I think if you're going to be president of the United States and commander in chief of the military, you have to have served at least, in the Guard or something to have some sort of experience with what the military is, as well as being on like any of the committees, like Armed Forces Committee or anything like that.
Yeah, I would agree.
At the very founding of this nation, it was never stated in the beginning that everybody should have a right to vote. Right? That had to be changed over the course of years. There are just a ton of people I do not want receiving any kind of military training or anywhere near the armed services because
or voting.
That much. There's a lot of logic in that of going back a little bit.
Oh goodness.
But one of the things that, as a very unapologetic, patriotic civilian, I take pride in the fact of knowing the men and women that are standing on the wall of the United States of America. I know that they are the finest fighting group and some of the finest people that I've had the chance to meet. There's a lot of goofballs out there too, but you know what? When the shit hits the fan and it's time to go, I'm very proud of who it is that's taking care of life and liberty for us around here, and that comes from, in my opinion, as that was a choice to go and stand for something higher than yourself. So
when you look at the numbers for the U.S., right, and as far as those who have enlisted, every single branch exceeded their quota, like 4 months early this year. I mean, and
I was going to say now.
I clarified. But that's true. You go back
the numbers to affect that, to change that, because nobody was meeting mission except for the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps was barely making it at the end of the year. Right. Very last quarter, very last month, and they're making it, and everybody else was not. The Marine Corps has lowered their numbers. We got rid of all of our tanks. We've got rid of Osprey squadrons. We got rid of infantry squadrons, right? So all those numbers are going down. Retention is going down. People are getting out, especially those guys and girls that did back-to-back deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, to the boat, wherever. So yes, they all made mission. Great. But they lowered the end state mission number to make that mission.
That number was dropped last year because of that problem, and now this year it is up. But I have seen here re-enlistments are up exponentially here on Fort Campbell. Yeah. Everyone's making an exceeding mission here on Fort Campbell because people want to stay in now with what's going on, and they see a better light forward than they had in the past, so they're staying in. That's one good thing, but like you said, the numbers were drastically reduced.
I'm curious what the retirement change is going to do as far as the long-term impact.
I haven't seen anyone complain about it yet, but we'll see.
I know that just in one county in Tennessee, one high school, there were over 40 graduating seniors at this high school, all different branches that had signed up. 40 in one senior class. That's huge. I mean, you don't see that hardly at all. Or, I mean, I can say I've never seen that, but I was impressed.
I was a recruiter for 3 years and I never saw it.
Yeah.
I pulled 5 guys out of one school. That was the most for me. Right now, the Army had 3 or 4 in there, and then the Air Force had their 1 or 2. I don't even know if the Navy might have had 1, maybe. So we're talking about 10 guys and girls from a class of 300 plus.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I think, there's a lot. And I guess technically it'd be a cousin. He graduated this year, and he actually now is currently in basic training. So
what do you guys think about, I mean, we all know the majority of the socioeconomic numbers about who joins the military, right? It's not the senator's sons, these type of things, or daughters. That much is a given. How much with the current landscape that we're seeing right now, as far as prospects for the future, the military actually does offer pathways, to a better future in many cases nowadays than the prospect of going out into a 6-digit debt system in college, and a very uncertain job market out there. At least with inside the military, there's a promise now of at least guaranteed training of some kind, and we hope that the next 4 years, at least doesn't show any signs of deployment. But how much do you think that plays into it?
I hope not as much as it probably does. Because honestly, I had this conversation with relatives. My dad's career military, I was career military. Being retired has a lot of benefits to it, but at the same time, I want the right people. I want people who want to join the military. Don't just join it because it's a welfare system for you or something like that. Join the military because you want to serve,
Right.
And through, if you do a full career, there's a lot of benefit to that, obviously. But to me, it shouldn't be a way out, but I know it is in some cases. And, some people embrace it once they do it, and it changes their lives forever. And that's awesome. But really, I just hope that people really want to be a part of that, because it is a lifestyle. And, if you're buying into this, to make it easy on all your seniors and your fellow service members across the ranks, you buying into it makes a big difference.
Yeah. So my daughter graduated last year, right? They had almost 400 people in their graduating class for senior class. And I think maybe 5 went into the military service right after high school. So I'm like you. I want people to be in the military who want to be there, not just because, oh, well, that's going to give me a better life. You need to go in the military because you want to go in the military. That's like, I knew when I was 9 or 10 that I was going in the military when I graduated high school. That was just set in stone from that early on in life. So I'm like Sean. I want people that join the military because they want to be there, not because it'll help them. So I don't want to say social status, but to get them out of the poverty that they are in. So,
but to be fair, you don't know what you don't know, what you don't want, or what you want necessarily when you're that young anyway. And Willis, as far as, and everybody who has a veteran podcast knows, I mean, I always ask the question, what was it that made you decide to go? And it's kind of 50-50. Some of them, they didn't know what they wanted to do with their life, so that's where they went. Some of them knew that, they'd never get a foot up because their family was poor, and that's why. But then they went on and they had very long careers. And so, for me to say, well, you shouldn't join if it's just for the money, or just because you're going to get, a GI Bill or something. I don't know. For me, I don't know that that's fair, because the fact of the matter is it's volunteer, right? Yeah. And if you don't have people stepping up for whatever the reason is, then it goes back to a draft and you don't have a choice. So I'm happy that people are.
I think you're always going to have that. I'm just saying, in the long run, for me, the people who joined because they wanted to serve were better soldiers for me as a senior leader, and like the one relative that I saw getting pushed to go wasn't going to be good for anybody, and I already knew that going in. So I was trying to talk them out of it, unless you really want to do it, don't do it. But I agree with you. I mean, how we all know people who it turned their life around. It changed their trajectory and everything, which is just fantastic. But I would also say that they bought in at some point.
Yeah.
And we also all know those senior leaders that they just stayed in long enough to get promoted, and they were still dirtbags. And so
I think you're going to have that in any kind of job setting. It doesn't matter.
What do you got, Miss Pippa?
So I think the US is in a very unique, fortunate position because you still recruit Like you still have recruiters from the services. So in the UK, we are understaffed. And I put a lot of the blame on the fact we outsourced our recruitment to companies like Capita, or like we call them Crapita, who don't understand the military process, who reject people for things we wouldn't reject them for because they're doing a tick box exercise. And you need to do the holistic process. And I used to run the London district training during my training battalion years. And you can see straight away. And I remember I used to do it with the Paras, who used to be there for the infantry selection, and they'd see a girl cry, and they go, Pip, go and talk to that girl because she's crying. I'm like, she's crying because she hasn't trained for this, not because like she needs any help from me. And I remember one occasion there was a girl who'd been through twice and she still failed, and she was crying. I was like, but you haven't trained. You're here twice. Like, how much do you want this? And as a volunteer system, you can go, you don't hit the standard, therefore you're not good enough. Thank you very much. But you haven't taken this seriously. Now, we had conscription after the war in 1949 to 1963-ish, mostly because we were trying to staff the empire back in the glory days. And we stopped it, though, because firstly, the empire got dismantled for good reasons. But also, secondly, we found that, like you say, conscripts do not make good soldiers. And during the wars, we conscripted, but there was a real clear present danger that we believed in, and that made us want to step up. I think in Europe, though, what we're seeing is we still see Russia as that real present danger right now. And it's on our doorstep. And Germany, there's been, I don't know if you guys get this on your social media, but there's a lot of stuff around Germans making jokes going, just to be clear, you want us to build our army up. You know, like you're asking us to build our army up. And the thing is, we are. Because after Ukraine, you've got Poland, then you've got Germany. And we're understaffed in the UK. The French are understaffed. The Ukrainians are struggling. And so there is a present. But I'm with you. Like, is conscription the right answer? Probably not. Because conscripts don't all make good soldiers, airmen or sailors. But you have a clear and present danger. People aren't signing up. What do? You force the matter.
I'm interested to hear from you, Pippa, about how you guys are truly viewing Russia at this point, because other than the threat of nuclear war, I have been really surprised with how poorly they've performed as, you know, one of the former superpowers, and how, you know, Ukraine has really held their own for so long. Because when it all happened originally, my initial thought was they're just going to roll through it and it was going to be a speed bump, but that didn't happen. So I'm just kind of curious what the European view is of Russia at the time.
I think so. The nuclear part actually worries us the least, because we all know if we press that button, we're all screwed, right? That's a button that nobody actually wants to press. But even before this, if you look at the Baltic states, so I've got friends who work in our foreign service, and I remember there's a thing called the Tallinn Manual, which is about cyber warfare, and it was built together in Tallinn. And I remember when that was being written, we went over there, and the Estonians' view was we have three problems: Russia, and Russia. And that is the view that's shared by all of us. And I, you won't know this, Sean, but I speak Russian. I have a degree in Russian. I lived in Russia as a student for my first degree. But that was a very different Russia to what we see today. And like all nations, we go through these cycles of looking back to the good old days, the days of the empire of the British. But for Russia, it was the days of the Soviet Empire. And Putin is a child of that empire. He is a son born and bred in the hell pits of the KGB, of owning half of Europe and Central Asia. And he's of an age where the only way to keep power is to start a fight elsewhere. And that's what he's done. He didn't expect the resistance that he got. The Ukrainians have done a marvelous job, but they've done it with weapons from all of us, as we know. And what do you do when you're backed into a corner? Well, if you're sensible, you negotiate a peace deal and hopefully walk away with your head held high. We're not sure that Putin thinks that way, because if he did, he wouldn't have kept going this long. He miscalculated our lack of interest in Ukraine, because when he invaded Georgia, when he invaded, where else it was, he did it a couple of years ago, we kind of went, oh, I don't really care about these countries, so you can have those bits. But Ukraine we care about because it feeds most of Europe and Africa. It is that final line of defense against basically what we consider, the former Western Europe plus Central Europe. He miscalculated our interest in it, but also he miscalculated how difficult it would be. But as a result, he's a man cornered who doesn't like to be cornered, who wants to be strong. So It'd be a mistake to start a war on another front. We all know that from most of our history lessons. But also, that's what happens when you're pushed to a corner. So it is a real concern for us, definitely.
Okay.
Oh man! So any other good news? I was trying to find some good topics here. Do y'all remember when the F-35 pilot ejected before the fiery crash? I forget when it happened. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. So August 20th of 2025. Do y'all remember when that F-30, a U.S. Marine Corps F-35B Lightning II takes off during? That's when it. I'm assuming it's when it crashed. But there's an article here that's on military.com. This F-35 pilot was on phone for nearly an hour with engineers before ejection and fiery crash. So I'm assuming something was going wrong with the plane. So he was on the phone with the engineers trying to resolve the issue. So January 28th is when the actual crash happened. Let's see, up in Alaska at Easton Air Force Base. That's the presumed good news. But anybody hear about that other than what's here? There was a landing gear issue. It looks like.
Iced up landing gear.
Yeah, it said was on the phone midair with Lockheed Martin engineers for nearly an hour attempting to resolve a landing gear issue before ultimately having to eject from the jet, according to a newly released accident investigation report.
How's that go? Hey, Joe, you got a phone call.
Right?
This is Captain So-and-so. I need to fix this landing gear so I can land.
Hold my beer.
Yeah,
hold my beer. Mr. Ty Cobb, welcome in, sir.
What's happening, man?
How's it going, brother?
Having issues. Can't get
You're having issues.
Yeah, I can't get my StreamYard, my podcast computer to work, so I'm on a backup.
Oh man, yeah. StreamYard's having some issues. Like we were live on the HomeFront Sitrep page and also True Patriot Outfitters page, and both of those have dropped off for some reason. So,
Is that what it is? Oh, okay.
I don't know what's going on with it. Like everything else is there, but those two pages have dropped off. So yeah, I don't know if something's going on with StreamYard. And
Me last night too.
Did it do you as well?
While we were live last night, it gave me 8 minutes of live on 2 of our Facebooks.
See, that's. I'm wondering what's going on with that because I reached out to Adam, of course, Heroes Media Group. I want to give a big shout out to Heroes Media Group. I told him about it because on Monday night it dropped the HMG page that we were live on, and it was only live for 8 minutes and 37 seconds.
It's exactly what happened. 37.
Yeah. So something was going on. Something's going on with it. But,
we're being shadow banned by the man.
Yeah, maybe.
Damn the man. Damn the man.
All right, so this is for all the Marines out there. This is from taskandpurpose.com. Marine General will return to Paris Island 40 years after graduating. So Lieutenant General Jerry Carter had dropped out of college and was working at McDonald's, digging through a dumpster to find a customer's key when he decided to enlist. And then it says he remembers the exact moment he knew his life had to change in 1985. He's working at McDonald's. Now he's going back. Let's see. It says, I appreciate being able to go back and allowing these new graduates to see what they can actually become. I think he's going back in a position of maybe the commanding general. Not really. The article's not saying exactly what's going on. I think that's super cool though. He graduated 40 years ago, and now he's getting to go back and lead the new Marines that's coming into the Marine Corps. I think that's super cool. I was trying to see if it said what he was going to be doing.
I bet you he's got some great back in my day stories.
Oh yeah. Well, so I'm trying to think. 40 years ago in the Marine Corps at Paris Island. So I've been out. God, I don't even want to say how. It'd be almost 30 years coming up for me.
Man, you're
So
old.
I know, right? There was before my time. There was a drill instructor that led recruits into the swamps of Paris Island and wound up. A lot of them wound up being hurt, and he was relieved. Of course, he was relieved and probably big time and everything else. So, yeah. So I bet you he's got some crazy stories. Crazy. Well, anybody else got anything?
Let's just say, good topic.
Right? What's a good topic? Who's got a good topic? You got something? Or Pippa?
I can give you a like for like. The final part of my career was spent doing stuff with Russian, unsurprisingly. And we'd actually stopped teaching Russian in the army because we thought Russians were our mates again. And so I ended up serving with actual Cold War warriors who've been doing the Russian stuff during the Cold War. And their stories of East Germany were epic. And it was just always this, like, one time in Berlin, have you ever seen the film? I think it's Atomic Blonde, where they're in Berlin. It's all spy games. I mean, the way they told it, that's how they lived it. And to this day, I will not question that if that was true or not, because they were great stories.
That's awesome.
Speaking of spy, U.S. military contractor accused of trying to spy for China, charged with espionage in Germany.
Awesome.
An American man who worked at a U.S. military facility in Germany and allegedly offered to supply sensitive information to China has been indicted on espionage charges, German prosecutors said Monday. The suspect, identified only as Martin D., in line with German privacy rules, was arrested in Frankfurt in early November in an indictment sent to the state court Copenhagen.
Damn rats.
Coming through the floor on me. He is charged with having declared his willingness to engage in espionage for a foreign intelligence service. Yeah, so that's crazy.
There was another one not long ago. I think the last name is like Singh or Sai or I don't know.
Yeah, it was this week, wasn't it? It was like this week or last week.
Well, they caught him like a month ago, I think, and I think he just has been found guilty, and they found a lot of documentation, information about like our tanks and things like that. And I want to think he was Navy.
I would love to see us actually hold these people to the old standards we used to hold them to for this type of thing. But like, I remember when Bergdahl did all his stuff, and now he's what, in a women's prison now or something? I don't know where I mean,
Josephina now.
Yeah, why is he even breathing? That'd be my question. And
bring back the yard arm.
Yeah, but at the same time, look at what our politicians are doing. And it's like, how can you have a separate standard? The half the stuff that I've seen on there are things that we would have been court-martialed for, and thrown in Leavenworth. But it's just ridiculous. And keep secret documents laying around the house. Use it as a coaster. It's like it's crazy.
It all goes back to accountability.
Throne reading.
Yep.
We had a Intel sergeant arrested here, I think 2 years ago, and convicted last year for espionage for China, and he did it for like $15,000 so he can get parts for his car.
Oh my
God!
He wanted to be a racer, wanted to be a street racer, so that's what he did it for.
That's crazy.
I mean, I don't condone any kind of that behavior, but if you're going to do it, at least make it pay.
Yeah.
Like,
We are not advocating for anybody listening. This is not.
No,
Sorry,
you're
I'm
not.
helping Willie.
But if you're gonna do it,
yeah,
go watch some of those old documentaries about the guys who brought in millions.
La 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 la.
We had a guy recently. He wasn't intelligence. He was actually signals, but he thought it was intelligence. He tried to spy for the Iranians and tried to be a double agent, and I think he's gone down for life, rightfully so. But yeah, that's the most recent one I can think of.
All right. So what do y'all think about the people burning the American flags here recently, trying to get arrested, and all this stuff that's going on now? What do you guys think about that?
I think this goes back to our first topic tonight of social media, and those people want likes and want followings. So as soon as it was signed, how do I get more likes and follows? I'm going to burn the flag right in front of the White House. I'm going to stand there in a combat shirt and look cool and say this. So I'm going to get a bunch of likes and say at the same time, I love America. So it's just for the likes.
And they're not, and when they make it a challenge, right? I mean, how many people will avoid a challenge? Not many.
Yeah, I think it's stupid, and I agree with you, Rich, that they're doing it for the likes and trying to get their 15 minutes of fame. That's what I think is going on with that.
That 15 minutes, though, is going to find them prison time here from the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Rich was saying, it goes back to me, consequences for your actions. I've done numerous reports on Hamas in my different intel schools I had to go to. If you're telling me that you support Hamas, you're telling me you're a terrorist. They're one of the oldest terrorist organizations in the world, and that statement alone has consequences, but we don't do anything about it, so we need to start, holding people accountable for what they're doing and saying, and things will start changing, because all these people who say they claim or they support these things have never lived that life, and give up all your freedoms here in the U.S. and go over there to the Gaza Strip and be pro Hamas and see how that works out for you. Different lifestyle.
It's a slippery slope, with the free speech thing. I still don't know where I land on it, whether or not burning of a flag should be considered free speech or not. I mean, me personally, no, absolutely not. But we really do start getting into some crazy things. Hate speech is not speech you hate, right? It's like people are allowed to say things that upset you. That's okay. I'm surrounded by individuals on this screen that fought for our rights to have those freedoms, right? And that's the piece. But yes, it shouldn't keep you from getting punched in the nose really well. At some point there's got to be something that comes around.
I've always been a huge advocate of the First Amendment. I worked in music stores. I wanted to be work for a record label. I've always supported the First Amendment, but at the same time, to me, there is a line, and I think our politicians continue to blur these things too, because now they're both just name calling. And it's like, we're doing this on TV where all our kids can see this behavior, and then don't even get me started on professional athletes and the stupid stuff they do. Like, I was watching the Little League World Series. All those kids, the way they're acting, I would have yanked that kid off the field if it was my kid.
Amen.
You're not going to act like that.
Amen.
It's like you say, though, freedom of speech isn't freedom from accountability. Like, sure, you can say what you want, but some words have consequences. No. And are they being enforced in the right way? I mean, we don't have the flag burning thing in the UK. We don't care about our flag in that way. But again, there still has to be accountability, because if you're defacing something which is public property, or if you're defacing something in your case, which flag, which obviously is very sacred for the American culture, there are consequences. Sure, you can choose to do it, but there are consequences. Accept those consequences.
Yeah.
Or don't do it. Find other ways.
Me personally, right? All right, let's go back to when people were kneeling during the national anthem, and the big spill.
Trying to get my blood pressure up tonight.
Right. So, here we are. We're veterans, right? We fought for people's rights, their freedoms here in America, to keep those freedoms. A lot of people were, pissed off that, Colin Kaepernick was kneeling for the flag and, all these other people, all celebrities and stuff. I'm like, look, I fought for their right to express their whatever. If they want to kneel for the flag, that's their choice. I'm not going to do that. That's just like burning the flag. I'm not going to burn that flag. Now, if somebody was out in my street right in front of my house and they were trying to burn the American flag, I would probably go stop them. That's just what I would do. That's me. But now, do they have the right to burn that flag? That's a slippery slope. I mean, they can do it if they want, but they also have to face the repercussions, the cause and effect of it. So we'll see.
I think being a veteran or being associated with the military, you have a unique view of the world, which I don't know if privilege is the right word, but it kind of is a privilege because you see the world at its best and its worst, but also you have given up your time, your life in some cases to fight for these ideals. And I remember when I was in Afghanistan in 2011, there were riots in the UK, and I was so angry because we had boys and girls getting killed, fighting for their right to riot, essentially. And it's a hard one because, like you say, I truly believe that we are very privileged in the Western world, in particular, with the freedoms we have, and I wouldn't want to change it for anything. And I do believe in the right to have these moments of saying what you want to say, but it's the lack of accountability and the consequence. And also, to your point about politicians, wherever you go in the world, they don't set a good standard. And there's one rule for them, one for other people. So then it makes it really harder to have that accountability, where you see people in these leadership positions or so-called leadership positions not playing by the rules that they expect everyone else to play by. And so it becomes really crowded and really, really, really complicated. But as a veteran or as a military connected person, I think it's, in my opinion, a lot worse because of what you have done, what you were prepared to do so that people could go and fuck around. Excuse my language.
No, you're good. Well said. Well said. Tack Bob, you joined us late. What do you think about this, what we're talking about?
Well, I mean, as far as I kind of agree with what you're saying about fighting for the right to have people do that. And I think people take it to extremes. Like, I mean, there was no reason he can kneel all he wants to, but there was no reason for him to wear those socks. It's just being antagonistic. And that's kind of how I feel about that. Yeah, he has every right to do it. And I still stand for that right, that he has the right to kneel if he wants to. But I just think people take things to the nth degree when it comes to, what's the word I'm trying to say? When you're trying to tell somebody they need to be a good person, I forget what it's called. I don't know. Anyway,
integrity.
You're trying to tell them that they're being a bad person, and I can't remember what it's called, but that's basically what they're doing. They're telling you how bad you are, but at the same time, the transgressions that he's doing to battle against whatever was going on in the NFL at the time, I don't think it measured up. And it's just a stance to get somebody to recognize something. And unfortunately, I think that one missed a little bit because Colin Kaepernick didn't have the pulse of the people, to be quite honest. That's what
And now I'm hearing he has no money. He's not getting a pension.
Well, either. I mean, I don't understand that. I think he did his service. He should get whatever the NFL normally gives people that went that way.
How long was he in, though?
I don't think he was in long
7
enough.
years. Yeah.
Was it that long?
Maybe 4 or 5 years.
I think it was only like 4 or 5. And I think they were saying that I just read this article on it last night, actually. I can't remember. But there is a threshold that they have to meet in order to receive that pension. And he didn't meet it.
Yeah, I just think that at the beginning, when they were just kneeling, I was all for it. I was like, yeah, that's what I fought for people to have social opinions and for them to be recognized and for it to be, looked at if it needed to be looked at. I'm all for that part. But the part where it fell apart to me is where they made that the argument that he was being blackballed. I don't think he was being blackballed. I don't think he was in the top 10 quarterback. I don't think he needed that much gusto behind his name for what he was doing because he wasn't one of the elite quarterbacks, in my opinion. So that's where it fell short. But the social justice part of it, I mean, I understand. I can relate. I understand that some of the things that they're talking about, that's fine. And like you said, Willis, I fought for that right. But if someone wants to just like if someone wants to tell me that I have to bow down to them because they're LGBTQ or because they're this, because they're straight people don't come up to me and tell me, I want you to support my freaking straight marriage. People don't do that. So
Right.
I don't want any of that stuff in my face. That's where it gets bad with me, when they encroach upon my peace. You know, when they virtue signaling, that's what it's called. He was virtue signaling. That's what the whole argument for Colin Kaepernick was, virtue signaling. When things turned into virtue signaling on a mass scale of 360 million people, that shit's never going to work. At the beginning, it had a point. But once it turned into mass virtue signaling for an entire race of people, or an entire organization of the NFL, or an entire blackballness of being blackballed against the NFL, that's where I was like, this is fucking bullshit. How did this get into this from him just not getting playing time or whatever it was, you know? So that's my take. I know I like skirted all the way around that to make a kind of silly point, but my point is that I'm all for whatever they want to do, but you can't encroach upon me, because I already fought for the right for you to say whatever the fuck you want to. So leave me out of it, you know, when it comes to it. That's how I am. Stop virtue signaling and telling me that everybody is bad just because of this thing that happened to Colin Kaepernick or this thing that happened to that person.
You know, remember, you can change the channel. People forget that.
Right?
Right.
Now, back in the 80s, as a kid growing up in the 80s, and even into the early 90s, this same situation, different context, different frame of forcing an ideology onto a group of people and telling us we were damned and doomed to burn in the 7 levels of Hades if we didn't join aboard it, is what created, you know, part of that big separation. As a kid, I grew up, you know, with a single mom who never got past the 9th grade, right? We were blue through and through, because back in those days, that's who represented for us, man. Trickle down just meant I was getting table scraps. Dude, that's really all it meant. And it was that far right push, different piece, but it was that pushing of an ideology onto somebody to try to tell them that that was the way that you had to go. It was only when things chilled out that I found a home. You know what I mean? It's like all of a sudden it was okay if I didn't go there. I wasn't going to burn in hell. They still advised me that I should probably go, but I could still be a good person and not, you know? And that's when I was like, okay, now we can be friends. Good.
Yeah.
The 80s was full of we're all going to die and, you know, the horrible deaths. So, it was
funny story. I just watched the movie War Games today. I don't know how loud I am.
You have not? You just watched that?
No. I've seen it 100 times. I watched it today as I was waiting for my son to come home. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, holy shit. In 1985, whenever I watched this movie, I was 10 years old, and it did not seem as I can't think of another word now. Esoteric. No. The shit. I can't even use my words tonight.
Words
you know,
are
where you
hard.
where you have the terror of the entire world is about to close down on you.
Collective.
Crown.
Yeah. I can't think. Esoteric threat. Anyway, I can't think of what I'm trying to say.
Esoteric.
Yeah, exactly. The story that told today of nuclear war and AI, it rings more true today than it did in 1984. You know, I think there's fail safes, but there's also accidents that can happen. And seeing that movie today, I was like, holy shit, I'm 50 years old and we're right back in it, because if AI gets, you know, into and gets launch codes, holy shit.
2 years ago, I made my 21-year-old kid watch Terminator 1. I'm like, look, dog, before y'all dive into Skynet, you better pay attention to what happens here.
True.
I'm telling you.
That's why I always say please and thank you when I use ChatGPT, and because I'm British, but just in case.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, man. Well, it is about that time. We've been on here for an hour and 15 minutes, guys. I think tonight we had some really good topics. You know, we started off talking about the uptick in the bomb threats and the school shootings here recently throughout the country. And then we moved on to the other topics that we've had. I think tonight's conversation was good. Gene and Sean, thank you guys for coming on and
Thanks for the invite.
Sharing the tip
Thank
the
you.
spear. You're welcome. If you guys would like to go forward and continue with the tip the spear, we do it on the last Wednesday of each month. But the way we end the show is what we're going to do is I'm going to start with Carol Lee. She's going to do her spiel to close it out, and then I'll pick Pippa and then go on from there. So we'll go ahead and get ready to close it out. That way we can get out of here.
So a little off topic, but I get the honor and the privilege next month of singing the national anthem at a pretty big event for us. So I'm really excited for that. And I want to say thank you because I absolutely love this show. Because even if we disagree, we still can find some common ground. And it's a matter of listening and communicating. So want to thank you and just, keep your head on a swivel.
Amen. Miss Pippa?
Thank you as well. I think for me, the summary of this conversation is autonomy versus connection. We need each other. We need our own time. The two don't have to be in conflict. We can find ways of living in harmony with each other and going back to what Willis always says is be someone's stranger. If you're feeling isolated and need that connection, just reach out.
I love it. All right, Mr. Sean, you're up.
Once again, thank you for having me on. This was fantastic. And I never thought I could have, these type of conversations with, a Marine who eats crayons, but it's just been fantastic, brother. And truly love all the work everybody's doing here and can't wait to see what else we can do.
Awesome. Mr. Gene, you're up.
Yeah, it's an absolute honor, man. I've been watching you guys for quite some time, just being one of the new kids with Heroes Media Group here. We're honored to be included in these conversations, to have this. I want to echo a couple things. First off, Sean, joke's on you. Purple tastes like grape. That's because I've got a lot of Marine buddies. I'm not a Marine, but I got a lot of buddies that are. But no, the ability to have conversations here and listen for understanding, maybe not listening for agreement, right? I mean, again, this is that double standard. Let's hope this becomes contagious and infectious going forward for more and more people, because it helps you get that mental health clarity, right? Keep things focused.
Definitely. All right, Mr. Tykov, let's wax poetic, brother.
Oh yeah, hey, absolutely, man. So I appreciate the network that we've built with this show. I always enjoyed Heroes Media Group, MisFitNation, and HomeFront Sitrep. But what I really want to say is, like the gentleman just said, you have to acknowledge everybody's issue. You have to be able to understand their issue. You don't necessarily have to agree, but the things that we're bringing together on this program are like a big mixture of everything we have on our Each's podcast. So some of the things I want to talk about in the future are, what we have going on. I want to make sure that we have a schedule that we show at the end of the show of what all is going on the other shows, David. I'll be more than happy to do that. And then I also want to say we got to start talking about atomic energy. We got to start talking about mining helium-3 on the moon, and we got to start talking about mineral mining on the bed of the ocean floor. So these are all exciting things that are going to be happening in the next couple of years, and I'm just excited to sit around and talk about it with a bunch of veterans. And then when veteran-centric issues come up, we talk about those too. I appreciate you. Triple Threat Vet Podcast every Thursday at 7 p.m. Tomorrow we have a Army and veteran guy named R.L. Sumez, Army and Navy veteran. So it's episode 113 tomorrow, Thursday, 7 p.m. Love you, bro.
Hell yeah. Love you too, brother. Love all you guys. Thank you guys for coming on here, and thank you guys for making Tip of the Spear what it is. And I love that we can all have our own opinions and still get along afterwards. We learn. The more we talk about different things and the more we see other opinions and others' opinions, the stronger we become as humans. And I want to say, hit this right here. Listen, guys, you're not alone. If you're out there and you think you are alone, you're not. I'm just going to read this right here. In the silence of your struggles, remember, though unseen, you are deeply held in the hearts of others. You are not alone. And Pippa said it a while ago, hashtag be someone stranger. Listen, we as humans, we're more apt to talk to a complete stranger than the ones we love the most. So if you're out and about and you see somebody Go up to them, say, hey, how you doing? If they give you the red flags, I'm okay, I'm hanging in there, I'm living the dream. Ask the next hard question. How are you really doing? But be ready for that conversation, because it could be a 5-minute conversation, could be an 8-hour conversation. You have to be ready for that conversation. And then this right here, it takes a village. Guys, what we got here on Tip the Spear, it's a village. We are your tribe. Anybody could be your tribe. Gunny talks about doing the cell phone roulette. Open your phone, go to your contacts, scroll through, hit your finger on it, whoever it stops on, give them a call. If they answer, talk to them. That could be a 5-minute conversation, could be an 8-hour conversation. If they don't answer, do it again. Spin again, whoever it lands on, give them a call. It might be somebody you haven't talked to in 6 years, but reach out to them. Let them know that you care about them. You never know, that person on the other end could be having a bad day. So definitely, it takes a village. Be somebody's stranger. Like we always say on Tip the Spear, stay safe out there. We got your six.